Good afternoon, everyone. Today is Monday, June the 13th. I'm finally getting the date correct. My name is Janice, and I'm your host of Stories That Inspire Us with Janice. Today, I have an amazing guest. I am so excited to introduce her to the Stories That Inspire Us family. Welcome, Elizabeeth. I'm so excited to have you here.
Me too. I can't wait. This is a great opportunity, and I'm excited to chat with you.
Well, thank you so much. You know, excuse me, you're not only an author, you are a wellness influencer, recovery advocate, an infertility warrior. And I surmise that there's a lot of depth and value, obviously, in what you do, that you are so passionate, like you're sharing your very raw and vulnerable story. Can you just give us a little insight on why first you became a wellness influencer?
Absolutely. So I have always wanted to help people. Even before I became a wellness influencer, I've been interested in psychology, therapy, whatever it takes just to help someone in their life. And this became the perfect opportunity. I realized I had a huge platform that I could use to get my message across and hopefully motivate or inspire others. So really, I tell my truth with pretty in-depth, radical honesty. I get pretty raw and vulnerable in the hopes that someone listening could hear part of their story in mine and know they're not alone. I just want people to know that there are others going through the same things and there's people out there to help. And if I can just save one life, then I'm happy.
Wow, that is so impactful what you just said there. And obviously, with being an influencer comes with it many, I guess, responsibilities, like almost, I guess I would say, a weight on your shoulders. But you accept that with such grace and humility and everything that that entails. And I know that you had an addiction issue, as with many people that suffer from different addictions, whether it be alcohol or drugs, excuse me, whatever it may be. Yours really, all these stories touch my heart. Yours really touched my heart because this really came at a time for you when you were the influencer, but you had to influence yourself. Like you had, as you said, you wanted to get this message out. You wanted to help people and know that they are not alone, but you had to help yourself first.
Absolutely. And it's been a journey for myself, almost more than for those whom I'm speaking to. I believe that in order to help people and love people where they're at, you have to help yourself and love yourself first. So at the beginning of this influencer journey, I was still struggling, figuring out what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be. And it just kind of, as I was helping people, it evolved into me realizing who I want to be and finding a good self-care routine and taking care of myself first and foremost.
Yes, that is so, oh my gosh, it is so very important, and as I've said in other podcasts, it's like when you're on the airplane and the flight attendant is going through, put your mask on before you help other people. So it's the same thing, but in reverse. But the position that you were in when that moment when you decided, and maybe I need the clarification for this because I want to make sure that I chat about this properly. You being an influencer at that time, did your followers or any of the people that you were assisting, coaching, were they aware of your addiction?
Yes. So I've always been very open. And that was really when I started being an influencer, it started with addiction in particular. And then I also went through an infertility journey that was kind of mixed together with my addiction journey. So I also strive to help people who are going through that. And now I'm also a twin mom. So I'm open to helping people with their anxiety of parenting or whatever comes with parenting. But yes, the addiction is definitely something I'm very open about. And that's what I kind of started this for.
That's amazing to share one's pain, to help others is, wow, it is a story to be told. It really is. When you find that people are reaching out to you, for instance, what is, for instance, the one huge thing, the message that you try to share with them? Obviously, you shared with us, you want them to know that they are not alone on this journey. What is one other big tip that you can share with us?
Well, the biggest thing they're already doing is asking for help. I usually say that's the number one step in recovery, is just asking for help, because it's the hardest thing to do. You don't want to admit that you have a problem. It's hard to say it out loud. For me, it took 15, 20 years to actually get the help I needed. So in addiction, we're just sitting in our own head, letting the addiction take over, thinking we are all alone. But so they already took the first step. And then I usually just tell them to get really involved in the community, because even online, it doesn't have to be through AA meetings or anything like that. It can just be through an online community. There's tons of different resources out there for people struggling. And I just try to give them those resources so that they not only have me to help, but they have tons of other people in case I'm unavailable at the time they need it.
Gotcha. Now, what type of social media platforms, and maybe this is too broad of a question, for instance, maybe people in your age bracket, where do your potential clients or the people that need help, where do they typically hang out on social media?
I get the most people on Instagram. I, however, am not big on Twitter or TikTok. And I know some people in my age group use those things more than I do. I started Twitter, and I know there's a ton out there, but it's just, I didn't want to focus on it. I've been focusing on Instagram because that's the one I most relate to. So that is where I get most of my questions, concerns, or people reaching out to me.
And obviously these different social media platforms, they change so often, so I know that for Instagram, it's more of, they're turning it into more of the reels thing, which I'm trying to educate myself on. And I am on TikTok, but don't know anything about that. But that's not what we're here for today, about to learn what programs I don't know how to use.
We both need a training course, it sounds like.
I think we do, and maybe we should do another podcast about that. But seriously, I'd like to know about your book.
Yes, I can't wait for it to come out. So I've written the whole thing, and it is a self-help memoir. So I go into very, very specific details from my childhood all the way up to my life now. But I'm hoping just something that people read and find inspiration and motivation in, just based on my story, and then it being a success story. So obviously right now I am a sober mom, and it just goes through everything I went through in my addiction, and then all the things that I did in order to get sober, and then how it relates to my success now. So it's, the usual memoir that goes through and chronic life chronicle. But it's really exciting to me. I can't wait to get it published. I am currently looking for a traditional publisher, but if that doesn't work out, I'm self-publishing for sure. So it'll get out there no matter what. I'm excited.
That is amazing. And, obviously I love to read and write, and, the power and influence of having a book in your hand, in the hands of someone who really needs that advice, is so powerful. So I'm really excited to hear that you're doing that, and it's going to be a huge hit. So just get ready for that.
No, I'm excited. It just reminds me, I read so many books, even in my addiction, that were talking about addiction, and they just inspired me and motivated me so much. And so I'm excited to be that book. Granted, it's more to do than just addiction, but that's one piece of it.
Right, exactly. Because as we've chatted before, here we are in this space and time, but there's a story that led us up to this moment. And all those things that happen in our lives, and especially for you, that really, you were in that fork in the road.
Mhm.
And you made the choice to get sober, and everything else in between that happened with that. You worked hard to get where you are, and to show your influence in such a positive way, to show other potential people going through addictions that they too can get to the other side, so to speak. So you mentioned, of course, that you're a twin mom. You mentioned infertility issues. First of all, God bless you for having twins. I think that's amazing. How old are they?
They're 3.5. So they're what people call three-nagers, which is definitely true with their mood swings and tantrums and all the things that come with it.
Wow. May I ask, boy or girl? Boy,
One of
boy.
each, one of each.
Oh, wow. That's wonderful.
It was really fun. We didn't find out the sexes until they were born. So it was a huge surprise and very exciting to wait till that moment.
That is amazing, because a lot of younger women now are having those gender reveals. So I think
Right.
that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I thought so.
Wow. So now you've got the book in the works. You're a wellness influencer. When you say infertility warrior, obviously I know what that pertains to, but somebody out there hearing those words will know what that pertains to as well. How have you molded that into what you do?
So I use the story again for motivation and hope for those going through it. It's when I was going through it, it felt impossible, like there was no end in sight, just forever trying different medications and shots and procedures. And I know what it feels like to have that sense of hopelessness. And for me, ever since I was a little girl, I knew I wanted to have kids. At the time, I thought I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom, and now I realize that I would not be good at home all the time. But I've always wanted that in my life, and not being able to achieve it the way I thought it was going to happen was just a really hard thing to overcome. So I'm hoping to just be someone people can look up to or ask advice from. I've had several people tell me their stories. It's just very therapeutic to talk through it with someone who's been through it. So I know that people will go through way worse things with infertility than I did. And I'm just there to listen and help however I can.
Wow. I also, as you were chatting about that, I also see you doing some type of anthology series on the subject matter.
Nice.
I really do.
Yeah.
So I just want to put that out there in the universe, because, I got to chat when those things come to me.
Cool. I like it.
Yeah. I mean, of course, everything that you do, but everything that you've been through really has such a meaning. And I just, wanted to take this opportunity to say that, whew, do you, how do I ask this? Do you struggle with the day-to-day influences? For instance, if maybe you're out at a wedding or out at some type of function where maybe people don't know that you had an addiction problem, and they're like, no, here, you have to have this. Do you ever run across that, and how do you deal with that?
All the time. It's in this society very normal to drink wherever you go all the time. At restaurants, the first thing you're handed is the cocktail bar menu, and there's rarely any non-alcoholic options unless you want cranberry juice and vodka. Sorry, that's what I used to have all the time. Cranberry juice and club soda. So it's constant, and there are times when they literally just don't understand you when you say you don't drink. They think, well, just have this one, it's fine. why be a party pooper? You know, why are you being no fun? And it's, so most of the time I just tell people straight up, you know, I can't drink anymore, or, you know, this terrible thing will happen, or I just won't stop, or, you know, I just lay it out there, and then they usually be quiet after that because they're just uncomfortable. But I have a whole toolbox is what I call it. And, you know, there's little tools I use, like always drive my own car to parties so I can leave whenever I want, or be ready to take an Uber home if I drove with someone. Always have someone I can call while I'm at that party if I need to be like talked down from taking one of the drinks they're offering me. I use daily self-care routine involving yoga, meditation, working out, just to kind of stay grounded on a general day-to-day basis. But even just, you know, it's been 5 years since I was in rehab, and over the weekend I was at the pool and everyone's having their fun Sunday fun day and drinking all day, and it's hard to be around, especially as an addict. You constantly obsess over it, and when it's in front of you, sometimes it just makes your brain start clicking in that negative way again, just like, oh, well, maybe I can just have one today, and you never can have just one. So it's a daily practice for sure.
Wow. Now, when you went into rehab, was it by choice? Like, did you come to that point where you're like, I need to do this like now? Like, how did
Yes,
all of that come about?
there were tons of events leading up to it, very negative things that happened because of my drinking. And I'd known my drinking was a problem for years, but I never really admitted it to anyone out loud. And, you know, I had therapists tell me to quit drinking, and I never believed any of them. And I had family members tell me to slow down drinking, and that just made me kind of pissed off, and I would drink more. And deep in my soul, I knew it was a problem. And the final day drinking, it was just so bad. Of course, I was drunk at the time I said it, but I said, I think I need to go to rehab, to my husband. And then I passed out. And when I woke up, my whole family was at my house, and they had had several hours to research places. And I just remember walking downstairs and my husband giving me a hug and saying, we found a place for you to go. So it was definitely, I didn't fight it. I knew I needed to go. I was terrified. And the moment they told me, I immediately was like, how can I sneak out of the house and go get some vodka just for this one last time? You know, may as well go out with a bang. But they, you know, took my car and my keys and my purse away and kind of put me on lockdown until I could get into the rehab facility. So that was my last day drinking, was that day.
Wow. And which was over little over 5 years ago.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Wow. And so amazing that your husband and your family came together to really support you in this endeavor and say, we're right there with you.
Right. Yeah, it's really important. It's hard because I saw some people in rehab who didn't have family support or really any kind of support. And that's really hard to go back to. Like if my husband were an addict with me and chose to keep drinking or something once I got out of rehab, like I don't think I would have stayed sober, because it's just so easy to be influenced by others, and being around it is really hard at the beginning. So I got really lucky with my support team.
That is amazing. And I just want to back up a little bit, because you said that you obviously mentioned self-care, this,
Mhm.
you know, that you have a routine with yoga, meditation, and working out, but you also mentioned the toolbox, which I think is really important. What would a toolbox mean to somebody potentially setting themselves up, maybe to get to that point where they're trying to make that decision that they need to go to rehab, but they know they need some type of a toolbox to help them get there?
Right. So I actually have something I carry in my wallet that's all the steps I need to take if I feel like I need to drink. And so I'll read that if I need to. But for someone who is actively struggling, it's like I said earlier, it's so important just to reach out to anybody for help. And even if that means just saying it out loud to yourself in the mirror, that's a start. And it just gets the mindset kind of that you need to start getting help. But there's places you can call if you're in your active addiction. There's, SAM, HSA is the substance abuse hotline. There's a phone number you can call there. There's, if you are willing to try AA, there's meetings everywhere, even online. There's tons of recovery groups that aren't AA related. I know some people, there's just a stereotype around AA that some people don't vibe with, which I believe there's tons of different recovery programs out there. There's not just one. So honestly, just going to I call it the recovery community is a good start, because you'll find someone who's in the same situation or someone who's just been in it and is figuring out how to get out of it.
Wow. Now, have you, in your estimation as an expert in this field, because you are, have you seen or witnessed an increase in different types of addiction? For instance, since the start of the pandemic, we've, heard so many different addictions happening.
Right. There's been a huge increase due to COVID for sure. Due to the pandemic. And I think just the stress of, number one, living through a pandemic, being home all the time, for the women homeschooling their children and trying to run a household and trying to work, it was just all the stressors added up immensely. And so there was a big influx in people struggling with alcohol that I saw during that time. And there's actually quite a few people in the recovery groups that I'm in that have been sober starting throughout the pandemic. So it was something that some women started to notice was getting really bad. For me, it is right now I work with more women than men. So I'm assuming many men struggle with it as well, but I haven't been in contact with those people. I know that there's a opioid crisis just in general, and fentanyl is really taking over as well. So there's more than just alcohol that's a big issue right now.
Right. And of course, with the fentanyl, as with any opioid, we don't know where it's coming from, or maybe we do in certain regions. They add things that, maybe one dose and boom, boom, the lights go out,
Right.
which is very frightening, excuse me, on so many different levels. When somebody is dealing with an addiction and they find themselves, as you said, in that mode where they might do something, and you mentioned that you have something in your wallet that you read, you have your toolbox. What if that person doesn't have anyone? You also mentioned the different hotlines that can help them with that. Can you just give us those hotlines again, what the names of them are?
Yeah, so there's one that's samhsa.gov, I believe. And that's the substance abuse hotline. And it's national, so you can use it anywhere. You can go to Alcoholics Anonymous, and there's different numbers you can call depending on your state and your city. And there's also just a whole list of Zoom meetings that you could go to. And you could Google recovery communities online and you'll find several. There's also, if you just type in rehab facilities in your city, you could find a number that have a hotline number you could call there too.
That's excellent information. Thank you for sharing that. And I will make sure, of course, that gets in the show notes. Now, what's one big thing? Obviously your book.
Yes.
But what is the next big thing after that? Like, do you have different projects going on that you would love to share with us?
I have several book ideas in my head, actually. So I have a whole children's book theme that I am thinking of since I'm reading a million kids' books to my toddlers every night. I just keep getting little ideas. I'm really hoping that once my book is published, that it'll lead to more speaking opportunities and more coaching opportunities. And I'm really just wanting to inspire as many as I can. So that's why I've been doing a lot more writing and podcasts and really getting my name out there so that people just kind of know Ellen Elizabeth and then put it together that I'm the one who helps with these things.
And it's not that you help, it's that you create a foundation for your potential clients to showcase what you have been through. Like, you have created that foundation. You have been through it. So what better way to share your experience and where you were and where you are with your potential clients. And I think that is amazing. I also, by the way, see you on a TEDx stage. So
I'd love to.
So you may want to grab one of them apps and start filling it out.
Yes, thank you. I've been trying to come up with topics, actually. I'd love to do a TEDx. So
We'll have to chat further. And oh my goodness, so much goodness today. Ellen, I can't thank you enough for sharing your very raw and vulnerable story. You obviously touched my heart. I know that you will touch the hearts of millions more, really millions more. Your story is truly a story that inspires us. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been so
You're
great.
welcome. And I hope you obviously consider coming back. I'd love to have you back on as a guest.
I'd love to.
Wonderful. Folks, Ellen Elizabeth is an amazing mom, a wellness influencer, author, and the list goes on and on. She's come from a raw, vulnerable place where it's all out there. It is all out there. And I hope if you are either viewing this or listening to the podcast and you yourself are suffering from that, or of somebody who's suffering, maybe it's a friend or a loved one, reach out to Ellen Elizabeth. Oh, Ellen, can you tell us how our viewers and listeners can get a hold of you?
Absolutely. I have my own website, which is www.itsellenelizabeth.com. And there's a whole page of free resources there and a bunch of free information along with parts of my story. So you can get to know a lot more about me there. And I'm also on Instagram and Facebook at It's Ellen Elizabeth. So I post almost daily, inspirational, motivational, sometimes quotes, sometimes funny reels. I'm trying to get into the reels too. So if you want to laugh, you can go through some of those. And if you want a motivational quote, there's those too.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Again, stories with Ellen Elizabeth. There's no other Ellen Elizabeth. She's right here. Reach out to her. She would love to help you. My name is Janice, the host of Stories That Inspire Us. And remember, if you have a story that you think may influence others to take a positive action in their lives, please don't hesitate to reach out. We will see you soon. And today is your day to share. Bye, everyone.